Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. And today we are on a rooftop, well not a rooftop, balcony.
Almost.
In downtown LA. It's not that exciting. With Dr. Joe. So he's one of my favorite people ever. You guys should know Dr. Joe, but if you don't, little intro.
You gonna intro me?
No,
Okay.
no, you're gonna do it because I'm gonna mess it up.
I'm Joe Klemczewski. I founded The Diet Doc, been in this business about 25 years. Started by writing for some magazines, so back before social media and all that existed, and you actually had to write. I had a lot of articles in Natural Bodybuilding and Fitness magazine, and then into Ironman and some other popular mags.
Okay.
Probably a little more.
Yeah. Dr. Joe knows a lot, has done a lot, has been in the industry for 25 years, which is super exciting because a lot of people, you know, can't sustain something like that, right? And the industry has changed so much in 25 years, which is why I'm extremely interested in asking you about this. So a lot of people come to you particularly for advice on, I want to get into this world. And you know, the fitness industry is always evolving, so it's not necessarily just one question that we get, but we kind of wanted to taper it to like fitness industry / coaching, you know, kind of how do you get into that? What would be the first steps? And this isn't going to be like, hey, start your LLC, get an account, and like it's not going to be that kind of a video, but more of like, what are the steps that you need to take to be successful today, because it is so different than 25 years ago when you started. So what would be kind of the first thing that you would say that people need, like baseline foundation?
Well, I think first you have to understand where the industry is. So as you said, it's not only changed a lot in 25 years, it did not exist 25 years ago.
That too.
So, you know, when I got started, I was just a competitor. So I was a kind of a brand new, drug-free pro bodybuilder. And when that particular organization, the WNBF, found out I had a doctorate in nutrition and I had started a sports supplement company, they were like, wow, we got to get this guy to write for us. So little did they know that my real interest was in competition nutrition, performance nutrition, even training. I mean, that was a whole, you know, blooming brand new industry back then in terms of where it is now. So I was writing all of this stuff about contest prep and dieting and nutrition, especially through the peaking process, that was very counterintuitive. You know, I'm the first person who said, no, you really need to keep water in, and sodium's not bad. You need a certain amount of sodium. And so all of that came from my early articles in Natural Bodybuilding and Fitness. There was no such thing as coaching. Yeah. So this is the most serendipitous thing that's probably ever happened, at least in my life. But I was trading advertising space for articles. I would write like 5 different articles for this, you know, publishing company. They had multiple magazines, and they didn't like to pay writers really, but they would trade for advertising. So the sports supplement company that I was advertising, we had ended up closing. And so one weekend, my editor-in-chief said, hey, I need your ad. And I thought, oh shit, I have nothing to advertise. So I just thought, you know, I had been helping some friends peaking, and I'm practicing, you know, what I preach in terms of what I'm writing about, all the different counterintuitive approaches. And so I literally just created an ad that said, you know, contest peaking specialist, thinking, well, maybe somebody would hire me to do that. That was how this entire coaching industry got started. Yeah. So
here we are.
Well, so what I would say back then was, you know, you asked the exact same question Lane Norton asked of me when he was 18 years old. He walked into my office, because he's from my town, and he asked me for help with his first bodybuilding contest. He was getting ready for some teenage something, right? And after a while, we're talking about what to do. He's like, oh my gosh, I want to do what you do. So here's little 18-year-old Lane Norton. And I said, okay. I kind of laughed out loud, because I think I was working on my second PhD, and I was already
Dr. Joe failed to mention all that in the intro, which is what I was hoping he was going to talk about, but I knew he wasn't going to. So yeah, anyways.
But so my first advice to Lane, 25 years ago-ish, is the same I would say today. I said, okay,
go get a degree. Okay,
little kid, like go to try to go to school first. If you want to do something, if you want to be an engineer, you probably got to go to engineering school. You want to be a nurse, got to go to nursing school. So he did, obviously, and so he was kind of the second coach in this space, and was obviously very good at social media, so he popularized it. But it is a different world now, and I think the success of anybody who has no formal education whatsoever has to be recognized. You have to acknowledge, and this was hard for me to acknowledge, that you can succeed just because you're willing to work hard and do this. You don't have to go get a master's degree in nutrition. I don't want to say that, because I would rather have people be more fully educated. I think they'll enjoy it more and they'll be able to contribute more. But you can do this without that, even though I think it would make you that much better.
Yeah, so I get in this argument, discussion, I guess you could look at it two ways, a lot with people, because, you know, we kind of come from more of a go to school background, but then I know so many people who are incredibly intelligent and very well versed, and they've never been to school, and they don't need to go to school. So I would say that there's some people, though, that really need that kind of structure and that direction. Like, there's some people who are very well self-taught very well. I didn't major in English. They're very well taught. You know, right? Like, they can handle basically, you know, a lot of it turns into personality. You know, some of it I'm sure is like intelligence related, but whatever it is, some people can just learn things themselves, right? Whether it's like they can read, they can set things aside, they can look at research, they can practice in person, and like they're self-taught and they can be really successful. Other people kind of need that school direction, and people who are more, I guess you could say, like research or school inclined are really going to thrive in that. So like, we're two people who enjoy that kind of stuff. So if you are that person, I would never say that you're going to get hurt by going to school. So when people ask me this question all the time, like, how do I start? Like, should I do a certification, or should I go to school, or should I just take classes, or start reading? Like, where do I start? If you have the means to do an advanced degree, I would say that would probably be the best one if you're in a good school, right? Like, you can't just go to a program that's like shitty and then be like, oh, well, I got my master's, why didn't I become more successful? Well, you don't just like graduate, particularly in this field, with like a nutrition or exercise science degree and like have something. Like, there's no set job. So you have to still create that. So it's not like you graduate and all of a sudden all these doors open up and life is great. You still have to go about it in a entrepreneurial way, but you're going to be a little bit more well-versed in something. So I would say that it's not a bad option. We're always going to kind of push for that.
It's still my first option. It would be like saying, okay, you can go to trade school to be a plumber, and you can learn how to put two pipes together and weld that together. Or you could ask an engineer who actually designs entire plumbing systems for buildings, and you know that person has to go to school and really understands it. So again, I think you would enjoy the sport more, the field, and your clients eventually know the difference. Like, they find other people who are more educated, who are more experienced. So if you are faking it, you will feel like an imposter your entire career, and you will be found out at certain points, and that's just not fun. So to me, it's like, be prepared. Be prepared. Even if it's just the greatest level of certifications and you build a foundation that way, if all you ever do is read articles or posts by other academics, other coaches, and you say, well, that's the person I believe and I follow, that's what they say, you become good at regurgitating information. So now you're just simply following protocols, which is not horrible.
Yes,
because
still better.
It can still be applied. You got the right information, but your understanding of it and your ability to really put it together in an innovative way, it's just not going to be there.
Yeah. I mean, I just learned so much in my master's in so many different facets, and not necessarily like the biggest takeaways were not the classes that I had. You know, like, it was just the way that I learned to learn, or the way that I learned, like, wow, I really don't know anything about this, and this is what I need to do about it, or even just, you know, having a research project, which is a completely different thing. Not everybody wants to do that, of course. But I do think also, so the other piece of coaching, so part of it is just education, part of it's experience. So part of, if you want to do this, you have to go and do whatever you're trying to coach people to do, right? I wouldn't say, I'm going to be a soccer coach. I don't know how to play soccer. I never played soccer. It wouldn't really make sense to me, right? And not saying that if you're trying to get into this field that you have to do every single thing that you're coaching people on, but I would feel bad if somebody came to me and were like, hey, can you be my triathlon expert? I might be able to help you with nutrition just because I understand the fueling, but I'm most likely not going to understand how to train for that. Now, could I learn from somebody who's a really good coach in that area and then maybe help you out? Of course. But having some kind of experience in like what you are helping people with, even if it's not directly, but still kind of similar, I think is really important. And would you agree? Like, so everybody listening, like, you don't have to go do a bodybuilding show and a powerlifting meet and an Olympic lifting meet and join a CrossFit gym and do all this stuff in order to be a successful fitness entrepreneur. But it will be helpful to kind of have that, like, in the trenches experience. Would you say that same thing?
Yeah, and I think the evolution of my company even kind of mirrors the evolution of the industry, in that my first company was called The Diet Doc, and we license, we franchise. So not only do we help train somebody who wants to be in this industry, but then they're fully supported by us. So our dietetics director, our medical directors, everybody on our team, our health psychologist, 150 peers all over the world, from pharmacists down to personal trainers. Like, that is an amazing team behind you, and that you have access to every single day. So you are a licensed nutrition consultant, like you could be licensed in something else. It gives you legal protection. It gives you just so much power. And that's what I mean by starting with the biggest amount of education you can have. You're starting at the top. But after running that for 15 years and seeing the rest of the industry kind of move away from that as a necessity, you keep looking at my NAMS logo here, then I decided to, we needed another level, we needed another step. People just didn't want that alone as an option. So we created the National Academy of Metabolic Science to certify program owners. So now it's like, here, if you want a full franchise opportunity, business in a box, fully supported partnership, you could do that. But now here for a 12-week amazing video course with just great practical experience. Like if you want to know how to be a coach, this is the certification.
This is it.
But then I thought, okay, now we have both ends covered. Like you can entry-level certification, licensing. In the middle, there were still a lot of people who wanted aggressive business support, but they didn't necessarily want to be associated with our company. And so I created the Apex coaching program, which is just pure business mentorship. So now I feel like I have all three kind of levels covered, or at least three good points on that spectrum.
And so experience, and to kind of loop that in, Dr. Joe didn't start Apex business coaching the first year he was in business, right? So he's been doing this for 25 years, so I'm actually a part of that. And it's something that was a big step for me, was like, hey, I might need, I want to learn more about the business side of things. How do I go to somebody who has experience, right? Like, just because I want to learn more about my business, kind of like we were talking about the degrees, I don't need to really go get an MBA, right? Like for my particular field, I might not need an MBA, but I could learn from somebody and really get this experience that they've culminated over the years. So I'm not going to start with somebody who's, been doing this for 1 or 2 years. Why the fuck would I listen to that person? So, okay, I'm going to go to somebody like Dr. Joe, who has a ton of experience. So education, experience, and then I would say that the third thing, as far as like getting into the industry and just like being a coach or a mentor, or whatever you want to title it, is understanding how to communicate. And that, I would say, definitely comes with experience, but also like learning just kind of basic psychology. And we're both like super fascinated by this, you more so than me, like as far as like what you've studied. But I think that's been the biggest thing over the evolution of even my short coaching career of like 7 years, is, okay, I've learned how to read between the lines, so to speak, right? I've learned how to pick up on cues. I've learned when to say, hey, we need to push for this, or like, hey, we need to pull back here. Hey, we should get on a call, like things kind of seem a little off, and just really checking in on people and understanding kind of the psychology behind it. So what would be, and part of that is just going to come from like you working with a lot of people. Like now I can just read stuff and a lot quicker than a few years ago, dissect, okay, this is what needs to be done, this is how I would handle it. What are some tools that you think people should use to get better at communicating?
Well, I think, first realizing exactly what you said is, we all go into most fields trying to communicate the right thing. So we're all afraid, like the first evaluation we're going to do, or the first programming, am I going to do this right? Am I doing the right thing? Am I going to hurt this person? It's going to work. And it's all technical. And it's only later that you realize, wait, these are relationships and these are real people. And there are so many more layers to this than just the technical numbers and process. So I absolutely agree. I've learned so much just from working with Corey as a health psychologist, as well as, I think, just maturing. I was probably a horrible person, coach, boss, employer, employee in my 20s compared to where I am now, because you have all that experience.
Hopefully you're better now than, you know what I mean? Like some people do go the other way, but typically speaking, experience. But was there anything that you like read or attended? I know you've been like studying more of this, like, or is it just, in your opinion, experience?
So I would say one of the things that's really a big model in my mind, because I learned it from Corey, is self-determination theory, which is understanding the motives that we all have. So I don't have to be reactive to a client if they're just having a bad day, or if I think, well, they're really frustrated and they don't understand the nutrition element. So I don't have to just get in this, head-butting, headlock situation of just argument. I can take a step back, be kind of the grown-up in the room who sees the overall picture, and say, okay, well, I see they're coming at this from a self-determination need of competency. They really feel like this is something they can't control in their life, even though they win at everything else. So this is really a pain point for them. Or maybe relationally, if they are somebody who's really desirous of connection, and I'm kind of dismissive, I'm just got them in the routine and all that, and they want more connection, then that's when, like you said, you may need some extra contact points and a phone call. So really, you have to look underneath what's just happening on paper, and say, this is a real person. What do they really need here? Yeah, and no matter what capacity that you work with within the fitness industry, because I don't want to like label it just as like online coach, because there's so many different ways. Everything comes down to communication. In any industry, in any form of life that you're dealing with, it's communication. But particularly with this, because you are working with somebody, it's something that's very, personal. And every relationship that you have, I mean, some people you're going to grow closer to than others. Like, that's just the way that, we kind of work. And some people might stick with you for 3 years. I'm going to know somebody who I've worked with for 3 years a lot better than somebody I've worked with for 3 months. And that's okay. Like, that's just a different relationship. But I think that understanding, like, hey, not everything is just the numbers. And that is one huge component, but actually being able to connect with people is the next thing. Like saying, like, yeah, great job this week, add 10 carbs. I mean, it just doesn't cut it anymore if you want to be successful in this industry. Yeah, I have this conversation with so many people. This is just a good example of it, where coaches say, well, what do you do with a client who wants a meal plan? And you are the godfather of flexible dieting, so of course you're trying to teach them flexible dieting. And I would say, why would you ever think I would only have one way of doing something? Exactly, yeah. Of course I would give them a meal plan if they wanted, because that's the step that they're on. That's what they need. Yes. So I want to lead them to this, but again, being the grown up in the room, somebody who sees the big picture, I can meet anybody where they are. I was literally just going to say, you have to meet them where they're at. That's communication. That's understanding it. You have to evaluate that first, have those conversations, and then make them very comfortable with the path that you're going to guide them on, instead of just having your own little routine and this is what I do and how I do it, and you're either in or out. Yes, and that is 100% the most important thing that you guys could take away from this. No matter what we say, whether it's education, experience, or communication, you have to tailor it to each individual person and each individual situation. So I might coach the same client very differently week to week, just based on kind of what they need at that point. So really hope that this was helpful for you guys. If you have any other questions, please let us know. And where can people find you? thedietdoc.com. Okay. What's your social media? Where's NAMS? There's at Joe Klemczewski is my Instagram. Okay. There we go. Spell that right, but Joe Klemczewski, my Facebook. LinkedIn, Joe Klemczewski, namscert.com. There we go. Okay. Am I leaving anything off, Mommy? I don't know. What else do I need? Listen, I was just trying to help out, okay? People are barely going to be able to spell your damn name, so I'm trying to give them some places to find you. Appreciate that. All right. Thank you guys so much.